7 o'clock in Gardner, Kansas. Call the meeting to order. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Got a good agenda for this evening. We're going to start with a presentation for our Public Works Department. Kellen?
Street crew up here. Mayor, if you want to
Sure.
join me. Mayor, you can stand.
Position of honor.
That's right. You got and we're here. All right, so every year the Kansas City chapter of the American Public Works Association holds a snow removal and equipment training expo. We do this out at the New Century Air Center. Our folks usually participate in setting up part of that competition. Overall, the expo provides a venue for area public works and maintenance personnel to hone their skills in operating snow equipment, various other types of equipment, including both classroom-style training that is provided by Johnson County Community College, as well as hands-on operations, testing, and events. It really gives a unique opportunity and training ground for learning, enhancing, and demonstrating the skills necessary for these public works professionals to do their jobs day in and day out. 7 of our Gardner employees participated. There were well over 100 participants altogether from 19 area cities and organizations and various events. And in one of those events, Eric Willard, our crew leader, placed first in the skid steer operations event. And one of our other folks, Jake Milkey, who was not able to be here tonight, he placed first in a vendor's mini excavator event. So as part of this, in one of the sanctioned events, Eric winning first place, he received this trophy that the mayor will be presenting him and hopefully not dropping on
Yeah. Yeah, that's heavy.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, congratulations. That's really awesome. That's what I'm curious as to what all you do to win this award. Is it strictly skills, or?
Yeah, they have skills, so you have a skill course to go through, simulating, picking up a load, dropping off, what's in your bucket. One of the tricks in it too is they throw a basketball in there that you gotta grab a hold of, and then you can't see it in your bucket, you gotta get it in the can. Right at the end of it, if you miss it, it's like 100 points, you're out. So.
Wow, that's amazing. That just speaks to our amazing staff overall, but in particularly Public Works, and it's great. And I know you're lucky you have such a great crew on there.
Yeah,
So
that's for sure.
we know that year round, especially during snow season and all the other times too. So congratulations,
Thank you.
yeah, that's really
Appreciate
amazing.
So, and this trophy will be displayed here in City Hall in our trophy case, along with a couple others we won in the past.
Awesome.
Well done.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, good way to start. Let's see, we have no public hearings. We'll move on to public comments. At this time, members of the public are welcome to use this time to make comments about city matters or items on the agenda that are not part of a public hearing. If you wish to come forward, please limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. Please state your name and address for the record. There's a 5-minute time clock to your left. No profanity, no
I won't
personal
take that
attacks.
long.
What's that?
I won't take that long.
Oh, that's okay, that's okay.
My name is Richard Lawrence. I'm at 730 North Walnut here in the city. I just have just a comment to make. As a resident of this community, I buy food over by Planet 7. All the merchants run that area. Prior to the ER place over there, there was a freedom to go through that area. The ER has cordoned it off, saying private property, no trespassing. I'm wondering if that's legal.
And you're talking over.
Over Planet Sub and
Yeah.
one of the, I guess you might say
They put a
urgent
rope across
response.
there, I believe. Yeah.
We took a look at it, it's their property, it is legal. It's a parking lot, it's not a thoroughfare.
Interesting, because it's always been a thoroughfare.
Well, people have used it that manner, but it's actually a parking lot.
So that's legal.
Yes.
Interesting. Thank you. That's why I thought I'd ask you, because it doesn't make sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
I did it in less than 5 minutes.
Any other comments?
Hello, my name's Mike Duffield. Sorry. My name's Mike Duffield. I live just south of town on 207th and by Moonlight. And mine's kind of simple. I just want to thank you all for what you're doing as far as limiting the truck traffic on 199th. I don't know if you all know how important that is to us. It's our safety. It's meant a lot. It's been a problem for some time, as you're aware. And if you don't hear it enough, I just want to tell you thank you. And one other thing, that hopefully this will be a catalyst for Johnson County to follow you guys' lead. Thanks.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Mike.
My name is Jennifer Williams at 21993 Moonlight Road, and I'm here for the same reason, just to tell you thank you from about 1,000 of my neighbors. So, over the years when we first started this fight, we were told, oh, this is Gardner's fault, or oh, they don't want to make waves, or so we know the fight that's been going on for some time, and we just want to thank you for having the courage to do the right thing and to stand up and protect what's really your boundary. And we want to thank you for putting citizens first. It gets kind of disheartening sometimes when you're fighting this and you just give up hope in the system and you feel like eventually government's just shoving it down your throat what they think you need instead of listening to what the people want. And a representative government, that's important. And so thank you for restoring my faith in the process. It's easy to give up. But also, along those lines, we are still fighting the rezoning out there. And in the most recent motion to dismiss that they sent us, of course, they're always going to send that first, and we have to answer back to keep the case open. And so it's actively going. But one of the things they call all of this 700 acres on the east side of Gardner Road is the Gardner properties. And they say their reason is because it's off of Gardner Road. And I say back to them, no, the reason is because it's Gardner. It's 66030. And so I don't know, at some point, I know we visited early on back in January of 2021, but if there's anything you guys want to look at, we're holding the line out there and we're still keeping that open. Now that you have solidified some more of your growth area to prove that that is Gardner, all the residents out there are Gardner residents at South Gardner, and you know that they're getting cut off from you guys if this continues, and they don't want to be. You've got it all the way to the county line, and so if you want to have your attorneys relook at that case to see about joining on at least the rezoning side of it to say that this is your growth area and that's why it is unreasonable to continue, you can speak with our attorneys about looking into that further. But at a minimum, the traffic, more people are sleeping well at night, and so we thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Further comment, we will move to consent agenda. Is there a council member who would like to remove an item from the consent agenda?
Yeah. And item number 5.
Do I have a motion on consent agenda items number 1 through 4?
Second.
Motion Deaton, second Shoot. We approve consent agenda items 1 through 4. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained? 1 through 4 passes. We'll go with number 5 first.
Execution.
Consider authorizing the execution of a contract for the Strong Lift Station Design Project.
It's really more of a comment than a question, but I also wanted to ask a quick one, which was about the process of the bids for the contract, as well as, well, I'll wait on the comment until I get that information. I know it was in the packet, but I just want to get it for the public's consumption more than anything else, so. What was how was the selection done, Kellen, on the Strong Lift Station? Or, I'm sorry, it was Gons, I'm sorry, my bad. It's utilities, not Public Works. I keep thinking of wastewater as Public Works for some reason, but I know it's not.
So, going back to the Prairie Trace project, GBA did the actual design for the force main to pump any wastewater from Prairie Trace all the way to the East Lift Station. Knowing that there's a limitation on that force main, we thought would be we thought that GBA had the knowledge, the sufficient knowledge to see if that, and if we lift additional waste, if that line have enough capacity. They've done all the preliminary work for the past 2 years.
Yep.
So that's why we went ahead and requested a bid waiver, so we can go with GBA.
Yeah, I just wanted to make that clear because I think some people saw the agenda and might think, why are we doing this no bid? So I appreciate that. The comment is, this is an amazing project because it's going to open up a whole ton of acreage on the east side of I-35 for development. If you have sewers, you can flush toilets. That's probably the biggest piece of that. And obviously, the most labor-intensive and costly piece on that part of the city. So I wanted to commend the folks in utilities, as well as the rest of the staff that are being forward-facing when it comes to development on the east side of I-35 to get that job done. So thank you and your staff for that work. That's all.
Okay. Do we move right to 5 first to approve?
Yeah, we have to have a motion. Second.
So is there a motion for consent agenda item number 5?
So moved.
Second.
Motion, shoot, second, we authorize the execution of a contract for the Strong Lift Station design project. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained? Consent agenda item number 5 passes. Consent agenda item number 6, consider authorizing the execution of a contract with Huber Technology to rebuild and repair the 2-step screens and wash press system at KCW RRF.
My issue with this was similar to Steve's on 5, that the system has been broken. We noticed it in July, but still only got 1 bid. Why didn't we get any other bids?
Because the 2-step screens are made by Uber. There's no other substitute. So that's why we have to go with the OEM.
Okay.
And we also did a waiver, a bid waiver, so we can go with Uber.
I have a motion for consent agenda item number 6.
So moved.
Second.
Motion D, second shoot, we authorize the execution of a contract with Huber Technology to rebuild and repair the 2-step screens and wash press system at KCW RRF. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain? Consent agenda item number 6 passes. Nothing on planning and zoning consent agenda. Committee recommendations. Item number 1, consider a recommendation to authorize the implementation of a quasi-net metering billing.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. The Council Action Form has a lot of information, but usually the problem is understanding what is a parallel generation versus what is net metering. So I have a presentation to go through those concepts so you can better understand where we're headed. So in 2010, the Electric Utility Board developed an interconnection standard mainly for any type of renewable energies, which is solar and wind. The the consumer generator must be compensated for that generation. Under a Kansas statute, the compensation should be no less than 150% of the avoided cost. In April 1st, 2010, the EUB adopted resolution EUB 008, making the renewable energy resource rate to compensate customer generators 150% times the city average cost of energy purchased. They had 3 options, but they went with this one. So in 2010, the amount was 5.90 cents per kilowatt hour. Every April 1st, we update that rate. So for 2022, that rate was 0.717 or 7.17 cents. On the slide, you will see the way it's calculated. We use the last 5 years average, then we multiply it times 150, and we come out with the 717. So what is the main differences between parallel generation and net metering? On parallel generation, the customer pays for any kilowatts the energy provides, and the city credits the customer for any kilowatt hours put into the city's electric grid. Net metering, the customer pays the net energy of what is used. If the net is positive, the customer pays for any energy the city provides, and if it's negative, the city compensates the customer for any energy they actually generate and put into the grid. Credit, parallel generation, the rate is 150% of the average avoided energy cost, which, as I mentioned before. Net metering is only 100%. Peak load allowed, parallel generation 4%. Net metering is lower, is 1%. As far as the size, parallel generation, residents can have up to 25 kilowatt system, commercial 200. Under net metering is lower, residential 15, commercial 100. Parallel generation is also known as net billing, and you will see through the examples. So net billing, have 2 examples. One, a customer uses 250 kilowatt hours from the city and generates or injects 200 to the city. What will the monthly bill be? Service charge is $672, energy used $250, then it's multiplied times the retail sale and comes out to $25.95. The energy that is produced or injected to the grid minus 200 times 717 comes to minus 14.34. If you add the numbers, you come out with a bill of 18.33. It does not include taxes or PCA. Now let's look at the other way. They say they use 200 and inject 250. Again, the energy use will be 200 times the retail. It comes up to 2076. Energy injected minus 250 times 717 is minus 17.92. So the net bill is 9.56. Any questions on net billing? Net metering. As I mentioned before, you look at the actual net, what the meter measures coming in and going out. So for this case, if the customer uses 250 and injects 200, the net energy is 250 minus 200, so you have 50 kilowatts. So 50 kilowatts times your retail rate comes up to 519. So in this case, your bill will be 1191. On the other side, if they produce more than they actually use, we have minus 50. Like I mentioned before, it's 100% of the avoided cost, so the rate is lower, 4.78 cents, so you have a minus 2.39. The math comes up to 4.33. The quasi net metering is something I came up with to use both the net metering concept and the net billing concept. So using the quasi net metering, the actual rate is the same for injected and used. So you're actually comparing energy to energy. You're not derating or your energy. So the quasi-net metering in this case is the same as your net metering. You use that method. If we go the other way, you see that we have 200 times 1038, 2076, injected minus 250 times 0.1038 is minus 2595. The bill will be 153. If you compare the quasi-metering with the net metering, it is slightly lower, but it looks very close. Considering we only have 27 residential customers, the impact of going to a quasi-net metering will not be too, it will not impact our electric fund at all. Any questions? And this is, on this one, I compare actual customers. And if you will see the three different options, this customer has a big system, and you will see that only in September, they injected slightly over the actual usage. So the actual difference was very minimum. Any questions regarding the comparisons?
Well, let's open it up to public comment first. Is there any public comment on committee recommendation number 1? Now we'll open up to council questions.
All right, well, I've got some questions. I'm sure that Mark does too. But my first of a comment, this is exactly what we had discussed before, Gons, and this is exactly what I was looking for. So I appreciate the forward thinking on this and getting this put together, and the Utility Advisory Committee, obviously, for bringing this to the council. Actually, two questions. One is a minimum bill. Is obviously, if this goes below the service charge, we need to at least assess the service charge so that that's our connection to the city. So I would say the minimum should be that 672, all right, because that's the cost of the line going into the house. Okay, so even if you have an amount that's being pulled, you know, and we're putting in more into the grid than we are taking, then as a customer, I would expect that I would have to pay the 672 for the connection. Okay, that helps pick up our maintenance costs. So that's the first thing. The second thing is there's a max. You said there's a maximum of 1%. If I see this being, you know, a catalyst to bring more people onto the grid that are using renewables through rooftop solar, I can absolutely see that at 1% not being enough if it's net metering. Is it tied to the 4% for the net billing, or is it tied to the 1% that's currently on the grid right now?
I don't follow. The 1% is that your system cannot be greater than your actual demand for 1 year. So right now you can be as high as 1%.
Yeah, 1%. That's what I'm saying.
On the parallel connection, you can go up to 4% as your maximum.
Okay.
So it's tied to the if you go parallel interconnection, or if you go with the net metering. Those are the limitations.
Correct. But is the quasi subject to the 1% or the 4% threshold?
Actually, I didn't, since it's something in between, I didn't put any percentage, but it will have to be with the current standard, which is 4%.
4%? Okay, that's fine. That's what I was looking for, actually, is that we'd be going with the 4%. So,
and regarding if the bill is negative, usually utility billing will give them a credit in their bill. They will actually not pay them, but
Sure.
will be a credit for the next bill.
I mean, in this particular circumstance, I could see the service charge as a minimum amount that we would bill, regardless of whether or not it's a negative balance.
Okay.
So,
I don't know that I agree with that.
Yeah.
why? Because there's a cost for running that line.
Well, I mean, if they're selling their energy back,
Mhm.
then you're not paying them for it at a certain time. If they were to sell back 100 kilowatt hours.
I'm not talking about the energy. I'm talking about the cost of the line. There's maintenance. There's maintenance that has to be done on those lines.
But the city's still getting paid for that power that came back into the system and reselling it to a different customer, right?
Correct. They're being paid. Yeah, they're being paid, but it's what they're being paid is the retail rate. There's a reason why that parallel generation is a lower rate. It's because of the fact you have to cover that gap. Well, if we're taking that gap completely away, which is the retail billing, back to the city, because they're paying a retail rate of 10 cents, all right, for the power that's being generated from our solar panels, then that means that they get nothing, and there still has to be a maintenance cost. There's a maintenance cost to provide that line. I'm not talking about the energy.
I understand. I'm just saying they're using their energy to pay for that maintenance cost. The energy that they generated with their solar panels that they sold back to the city, they're using that credit to pay for that $6 service fee is what I guess I'm saying.
The service fee is independent of that, though. The service fee is, yes, go on. Go on, Mark.
Okay, so somebody who was on the UB in 2010 and helped craft this,
Yeah.
there was a lot of discussion, and it's good to see that it's actually doing something at this point, right?
Yeah.
We were hoping it would be a little sooner, not 12 years later. But at the time, it was to incentivize, without providing a rebate or cash up front or anything else, for people to go green themselves, right?
Yep.
So that's why that rendering came about, parallel generation, et cetera. And then the idea was we'd see how many people were on the uptake and we'd reevaluate, right? So this net metering is a good thing. It's a step in the right direction. What I will say as far as the service fee, I understand what you're saying. And I understand what you're saying. And you're both right and you're both wrong. And the reason I'll say that is that
That just clears everything up,
the reason
Mark.
I'll say that is the rate, when it is calculated, takes into a consideration our maintenance cost, and the service fee is generated from that as well.
Okay.
So they're both tied together. So if you're generating enough to offset that, so be it. And yes, it exists, but it's rolled into the rate as well. So since we're already handling it with the rate/service fee, consider it one bucket. Plus, I can tell you that customers do not look at the difference; they're looking at the total. I would lean towards what Mark's saying.
You're okay with just saying that service fee, if we cut into the service charge if it goes over?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, personally, that's because right now we still have a small set of people taking this up.
Yeah.
This
The
is
bigger
something
the
we need
universe.
to continuously monitor
Yeah.
to see, if we get 100, we get 300 customers, that changes things potentially.
Well,
And we'd have to reevaluate what that calculation is, because the aspect of this number, right, we changed the rate and service fee, but the city doesn't get to make extra dollars off that when it comes back by somebody generating it. We just don't buy the excess on the market. But until we have enough that brings down the entire amount,
Which I hope that will happen.
potentially one day, right? But since that doesn't happen, this is in the noise of the market, right? This is what we buy off the market above our
Yep.
wholesale contracts. So if it gets to the point that we can change our wholesale contracts and request, a megawatt less from somebody, then that would change that rate additionally as well. So it complicates things. We're not there yet, though.
the question I have is, there's a maximum that a residential or commercial customer could sell back, right? I mean,
They can sell back, like I said, their system right now is 25 kilowatts.
okay, yeah, you said that.
So they can sell whatever, but the way the system is, the system capacity for a home is determined by their past demand, the 12, for the last year demand. So you can go as high as 4%, but not any higher.
Yeah,
So
so
that
the
puts
concern-
a limit.
Yeah, the concern that a residential customer could generate, go on vacation for 3 months not used really any power from the city, that they're just constantly generating and sending it back into the city. There's a cap that they're.
Yeah, that's the one. That's what I asked about, the 1% versus the 4%. Now, the other piece of that, though, is that understand selling back energy means that you're not using any energy at all from the utility, which means that excess power now goes into the grid for other customers.
Sure.
So it actually, you know, the whole goal of home-based power generation is to lower the overall consumption of the city, but also if the city continues to grow, it provides more capacity to be able to provide to other customers in the grid.
And then I can see your point in that. Since we're providing, as the city, we're providing that means for you to be able to sell your power back.
Correct.
That $6 service fee is that pay to play.
It's part of it, as Mark said. I didn't realize it was like a hybrid,
Well-
but yeah,
Since you only have the 27 customers, it's still basically in the noise.
it's negligible,
But
yeah.
as it grows, it's something we will have to look at further and evaluate as part of the rate study. Right now, we set the rates, and then we have this net metering agreement on the side. If you have a substantial amount of our usage being also where this is a factor, we would have to roll that into the rate equation, I think, as well.
Yeah, that'd be a good
That would
problem to
change
have.
things up a little
Yeah,
bit.
that'd be a good problem to have, actually.
And then that's where you could also change your 1% to 4%. You could have a minimum that you get $0. We never give them a credit.
Yeah.
Right? You could do that. I mean, anything's on the table, but at this point, I don't think it's really
Yeah.
a big deal. I like the net metering. We're the right step.
Oh, I think this is a great step forward. Absolutely.
And we keep looking at it and we see how many people take it up more.
I've had several solar providers come to me, and home solar providers come to me and say, the only thing holding us back from doing this is the credits, the net credits. They're coming back. If they had an ability to get the retail back, they'd be in tomorrow installing houses. So, yeah, this is a huge move. I appreciate it.
Do we require homes to be on our grid if they have enough solar and a battery and they can do it all without us? Do they have to be connected and get a bill from the city?
Anybody that generates electricity, they have to sign a interconnection agreement.
Any other questions?
If I may add something, the reason we cannot go to a net metering is because the existing customer information service, the billing software doesn't have that option.
Yeah.
So to me, doing this quasi, I think met the concept.
The smart meters made it possible, in other words,
Correct.
to do this. Yeah.
All right.
So in order to change the rate, we will have to, city council will have to approve an ordinance.
Mhm.
So we're doing the rate study for the electric, so once we have the rates for presentation, I'll bring this item again.
Thanks, guys.
You're welcome.
We do have a motion for committee recommendation number 1.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Shute, second Baldwin. We authorize the implementation of a quasi-net metering, billing, and investigation of implementing a net metering policy in the near future. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained? Committee recommendation, item number 1 passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gons. No old business. Moving on to new business, item number 1. Consider authorizing the execution of an agreement with Roslyn Preservation LLC for preparation of a National Register nomination for a Gardner Downtown Historic District.
Good evening. To get started, I'm going to have Amanda Laughlin from Rosen Preservation. She's going to go through what a historic district is and provide information and then answer any questions. So,
Thank you.
Thanks for having me,
Yeah,
everyone.
welcome, Amanda.
I'm a little short, so sorry about that.
You can pull that down.
Got that. I can't see you over the. Yes, I'm Amanda Laughlin. I'm with Rosen Preservation, and we are happy to answer any questions about this. I'm giving this presentation. I gave it to Jim and their committee a couple weeks ago, so I just wanted to provide some information for you all. We're looking at, we were asked to look at a potential historic district for downtown Gardner. It would incorporate about 29 properties, 27 of which we would consider contributing. It would be concentrated just right over there at Main and Elm Street, so we're right next door to it. There are two different things I wanted to talk about. One is what is a historic district, and then also some of the benefits that come with being in a historic district. We're looking at a National Register of Historic Places district. There are only 5 buildings in Gardner that are actually listed in the National Register. So I used to work for the state of Kansas, and so I know that really well, that we always try to get things listed in Gardner. This is an honorary designation, meaning that you're just really upholding and just kind of looking at, hey, we've got something here that's worth saving. It's, you know, it helps you provide history for future generations about the history of the city. It does allow for properties to be eligible for federal historic tax credits, which allow for maintaining the building. There's no restrictions to being in the National Register. There's no property rights transfers, or you don't have to make your building available to the public. It's strictly honorary. And then there is a federal law review, so if there's any state highways, which I see you've got a lot of work going on out here, so there's a little federal law that allows for the review to say, is any of these projects going to affect the historic buildings? So it does add a little layer of protection to some of the properties. Kansas is one of the few states that also has a Register of Historic Kansas Places, and everything that's listed in the National Register is also listed in the Register of Historic Kansas Places. There's actually 6 buildings listed in Gardner, so that means there's 1 building that's just in the state register. Again, it is an honorary designation, and being in the state register allows for properties to be eligible for state historic tax credits. So it's 2 different tax credit programs, plus there's a Kansas Heritage Trust Fund grant, which is a bricks and mortar type of grant. And then there is a state law review that's on all permitted projects that are in historic districts. So again, that's a kind of an oversight that allows for the protection of the district. So being in the National Register, I mentioned the historic tax credits. It's a 20% credit towards your income producing property. So it's your income tax, it's a tax credit. It is an incentive, not a grant, so you're not just throwing money, you have to actually earn. Basically, you have to play by the rules, and then you get the 20% credit. It is, again, on just income producing properties only. The projects are reviewed at the State Historic Preservation Office and at the federal level, so there's a lot of oversight on that, but you can also couple it with the state tax credit. So you're getting a 20% credit on federal, and then in Kansas, we just upped the state tax credit structure. It's a tiered credit that's based on population sizes, so I just looked a little bit, and you guys are about 24,000 in Gardner, so you're at a 30% state income tax credit that properties would be eligible for. And this would be for any listed property, so not just income producing, so churches, schools, and it goes to help with the maintenance costs of the buildings. And again, the credits are issued after completion of the project. Again, incentive, not a grant, and it is reviewed at the state. Basic criteria of what properties can be they can receive the historic tax credits. Again, it's federal projects would be income producing. So I think every single building we looked at Main and Elm would be an income producing property. It needs to be listed in the state or national registers. It needs to have a certified rehabilitation, which is basically what I was talking about with the state and the feds. Look at the project and make sure that whatever is going on, it's kind of the do no harm approach to buildings, making sure that it's following a certain set of standards. There needs to be a substantial investment in the property, so $5,000 or the equivalent of the adjusted basis. And then there are qualified rehabilitation expenditures, which is a huge list of things, anything from re-roofing to mechanical systems if you need to upgrade an elevator. This picture is not in Kansas, sorry, I don't know where that is. And then when I mentioned the certified historic structure, that basically just means it's listed either individually or in our case, it would be a contributing to a district. But we're looking at the National Register Historic District first because that is the first step in that process. That's what certifies the properties in order to allow them to be eligible for those tax credits. And those are voluntary programs. You don't have to take advantage of the tax credits if you don't want to. So quick and dirty, and I'm here to answer questions.
Jim, did you want to?
Yeah, we'll do questions. So the establishment of a downtown historic district is consistent with the city's vision for the revitalization of the downtown area to include preservation of the buildings that best represent the district. We discussed this proposal at a meeting of the city's Economic Development Council, and there was unanimous consent to recommend approval of the agreement using transient guest tax funds. We also sent letters out to all the property owners, and then the Chamber of Commerce assisted us sending emails to not only property owners, but contacts for business owners. And that was to set up a public meeting via Zoom to discuss the district and answer questions. Steve Hines from Groundhouse was the only one in attendance, and he indicated strong support for the proposal. I think we had at least one other person that was not able to get on that we exchanged information with. So I recommend approval to allow city administrator to execute an agreement with Rosen Preservation LLC for services in the amount of $30,000 from the transient guest tax fund.
Thank you, Jim. Public comment on new business item number 1. Okay. Council, questions?
This won't hurt the chances if somebody buys a space and wants to remodel it into a restaurant or something like that. Is it exterior only, interior, or they just have to go through an extra level if they want to revamp the space?
Yeah, there's 2 levels to that. People can do whatever they want. It doesn't restrict the property whatsoever. If they're taking advantage of the tax credits, you can do whatever you need to transfer that around. They're just little hoops to jump through if you want to, do certain things with the building. But yeah,
Those certain things would be like structural to the building. So like, adding a patio, for example, or something like that. Is that correct?
yeah, it's a whole range of items. It's not just the exterior; it's the interior as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, patios, rooftops. I don't know that you put a rooftop addition on anything down here, but we see a lot of like rehabs of buildings where you have residential up front and then or up top and then commercial below. So it just helps with those expenditures.
I saw something on Facebook comment. They're questioning the ADA, and if this becomes a historic district, are there ADA requirements that maybe were grandfathered in previously that would now have to be upheld or in any way?
That's a good question too. Sorry if I just overstepped you.
No, go ahead.
I didn't know if you were going to say
You're
something.
the expert.
With changing buildings, it's a lot of times it is grandfathered in, and it's whatever the local code is. So if you guys are cool with keeping certain ADA functionalities, like you can do that. But they can also, if they're wanting to use tax credits to redo things, they can use that to make ADA entrances or put in elevators if they need to. So there's no requirement that you have to do it. It just needs to, obviously follow local codes.
I think there's a lot of folks in that district that would love to be able to make their buildings more accessible that just can't afford to do it because the expense is significant, close to prohibitive.
Yeah.
So this actually helps to aid in getting some of these buildings up to ADA standards.
So, I think some people have a misconception of the historic district means that we guarantee that we protect the history of the buildings, right? Because if I come in with a boatload of money and want to do whatever I want to that building, I can change the entire facade, inside and outside, never apply for a credit, and it will never look like a historic building ever again, correct?
No. There is Kansas has a state law review for all of the buildings. So there are anything that's permitted. So whatever you, as a city of Gardner permit, you have a building permit, that would be reviewed at the state. So there's that little level of oversight to make sure that whatever permitted projects are happening to a building, it retains the historic integrity of that building. So it's, the state's really good at working with people too if they need to do something that may, be contrary. Or if they need to upgrade something, they're really good with working with people. But there is a certain level, that's what that state law review is for. And ultimately, you guys can override it. If someone's like, I don't like what the state said, they come back here to you guys as city council and you can say, whatever state, and then you just override that. I didn't say that, but that's part of the.
Right, but they just would not get the credit then.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't have to apply for the
Right.
credit. Yep, you can do all of that without even applying for the credit.
Okay, so Jim, since we basically only got one response from the business owners, this is basically for them, not for the city. I mean, yes, it's a great thing in the sense that there's that one review, and we could save some of the buildings potentially with some historic preservation, which is great, and I'm all for it. But if the business owners aren't interested, I'm curious if we should put a pin in this and either find out why they're not, and it's an education thing, or are they never going to use the tax credits because they feel like this is overhead they don't want? And if so, then maybe we keep the $30,000 for another project.
So we sent a lot of information with we mailed hard copies of the information, the facts about historic districts, the presentation and the things that we were going to discuss in more detail at the meeting. I think the lack of response is that they were, you could say that they were in favor or didn't have any objection to it. If there would have been objections, they probably would have come on and let us know. But I mean, we sent them hard copies of everything. So there was a 4 or 5 page sheet, facts about historic districts. We sent copies of the presentation. We sent a letter that explained what we were doing, the timing of what we were doing, and how it impacted them individually. And we got one response.
As I said, I've spoken with business owners downtown, and a lot of them would like to make improvements to their buildings, but just can't afford to do it. And this actually gives them the opportunity to do that, incentivizes them through credits and not, and
Gives them a
not through
resource
deduction. Exactly.
And we did have one business reach out to us, and they were going to do something sooner rather than later, and they're going to wait for this before they do renovations.
Yeah.
I also think too, as we look to revitalize downtown, some of the empty buildings, I think this is an incentive for someone who might be thinking about purchasing or moving in. And I did have one more question. There is a property just to the east on Main Street, right next to the gas station. It's an insurance building there that is, I believe, on the state. Is it in there?
I think it already may be listed as
Yeah, the old filling stations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
no,
you're
it's
talking
next to the filling station.
on the
Is
other
it in
side of
there?
Brown.
Talking about Tim's insurance bill.
Joe's.
Oh, that's not in here.
So it's not in this, or is it in there? Am I just?
No, it's not.
Okay.
He's
I
the small
think,
building.
on the currently on the state.
But he's not on the federal.
I don't think he's on the. So we include him in that.
We can take a look at it, yeah, this isn't hard set in stone, it was just
Right.
based on and we would have public meetings, so if,
Oh, so please speak in the mic. No one can
oh,
hear
I'm
you.
so sorry.
That's okay.
I was like, who are you pointing at? Yeah, this is definitely just a guideline, so we can talk to those owners, and we would have public meetings if they wanted to come and discuss, and definitely discussing like the benefits and everything related to that.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Any further questions, comments?
Oh, please.
Yes.
Do we need to come to the mic, or can
Yes,
we just speak
uh-huh.
loudly?
Come on, step forward.
Let's go, yeah. So, yeah.
And if you would please state your name and address for the record.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Phil Brandon.
Carrie Brandon, and we are the property owners at 208 East Main, the old B&H appliance. And so, yeah, our vote is yes, we're definitely in favor. We tried to attend the Zoom meeting, but we weren't able to connect. So I think we're the ones you were referring to. So, but I think it's a wonderful thing to be able to try to do as much as we can to preserve just the beauty of the history of downtown Gardner. It's pretty spectacular, the history. I do have lots of questions, but I don't want to take up everybody's time to ask them, so.
Oh, no, please. I think that I spoke with, now you guys do you own that building over there?
Yeah.
Okay, I think I might have spoken with you or somebody about that specific building because of the fact that there's some disrepair at some of the top. I think some of the eaves were having some issues with.
We
Yeah.
we had all the tuck pointing done over the last
Exactly.
summer. Yeah.
Exactly. So
that
that
would
was
kind
a couple of years back, but
Yeah.
you're the ones who said you wanted to do some additional work on that, that just
Yeah.
didn't have the funds or the ability to.
I don't know. Well, we just bought it. I don't know. It may have been somebody else.
It might have been the previous owner, but
Yeah.
yeah. But I know that was the specific building that I was discussing, which was the one that.
It could have
that
been me
you
and
owned.
you. I don't.
Yeah, but that was.
But
I'm forgettable. I know.
But I think for us, I think it's the timing questions of everything.
Yeah.
Because we're ready to get rocking and rolling on renovating and so how that all works and making sure we don't do anything that we couldn't, get the building approved. How long does it take for this study, which is the funds that you're voting on, right, to be approved, the study that needs to go for approval for historic register, right? How long does that whole process take for the city of Gardner?
I believe there's a timeline in the agreement that's in the packet.
Does it happen
It
pretty
looks like about 90 days.
Oh, 90 days.
Official National Register listing will occur roughly 90 days following this presentation.
I think that's just the submission of the nomination.
Okay, so not 90 days.
90 plus.
But I think it,
Could be more than, roughly 90.
but it was prior, as long as they applied for prior to opening the doors, correct? Or if I,
Yeah.
We'll let you take that.
That's a really good question, that there is a process that allows for application for if they wanted to do work on their building, but I mean, I can talk to them after.
Okay, yes,
There
please.
is a process.
Yeah.
But it does, because it's bureaucracy, it does take a while, so it won't be 90 days.
We don't understand what you mean.
I know you don't know what that means.
But then again, if the process is underway, a lot of times they'll just retro that, correct? I mean, I've heard of that before, where I know it's not guaranteed, but
I just have to say there's a process, so.
yeah.
okay. All right. No further questions. Do we have a motion for new business item number 1?
So moved.
Second. There you go. I knew you were big on this, so yes.
Motion Deaton, second Roberts, that we authorize the city administrator to execute an agreement with Rosen Preservation LLC for services in the amount of $30,000. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained? New business item number 1 passes.
Thank you.
New business item number 2, consider adopting an ordinance amending provisions of chapter 13.35.035 of the Gardner Municipal Code relating to the numbering of said chapter and the language utilized to identify certain city departments and positions.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. This is purely a housekeeping item. When referencing GMC Chapter 13.35.035 for a recent document, staff found the numbering system utilized in this chapter was inconsistent with the numbering system utilized in the balance of the GMC. Further review of GMC Chapter 13.35.035 identified there were also inconsistencies between this chapter and the balance of the rest of the code with regard to the nomenclature utilized to identify certain city departments and positions and to reference the code itself. The proposed ordinance corrects these issues without making any substantive or contextual changes.
Thank you. I expect lots of public comment on this.
It's very exciting.
Yes. Seeing no. Any questions? Housekeeping. All right. Do I have a motion for new business item number 2?
Second.
Motion Deaton, second Baldwin. We adopt ordinance number 2753, an ordinance amending provisions of chapter 13.35.035 of the Gardner Municipal Code relating to the numbering of said chapter and the language utilized to identify certain city departments and positions.
Councilmember Shute?
Yes.
Councilmember Baldwin?
Yes.
Councilmember Wayne?
Yes.
Councilmember Deaton?
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts?
Yes.
Ordinance number 2753 passes. New business item number 3, consider adopting an ordinance amending chapter 6.05 animal regulations of the municipal code. Belcher.
Evening, Mayor, Council. Back in May of 2022, Animal Control Officer Miller presented concerns about the current animal control ordinance. She began a review of the city's ordinance and also contacted other metro agencies to see exactly how they were doing some of their ordinances. The staff then proposed a draft that was reviewed by the administration, our city attorney, and the prosecuting attorney. The revised ordinance for consideration will help provide clear, fair, and improved language to help safeguard the citizens and animals that reside in the city of Gardner. Animal Control Officer Miller is here tonight for some questions if you have any. Our suggested motion is to be adopt ordinance number 2754.
An ordinance amending Chapter 6.05 Animal Regulations of the Municipal Code of the City of Gardner, Kansas.
Thank you, Chief. Public comments. Council.
I have one question, sorry, and I don't even know if it pertains to what we're changing or not, but I was asked this question this week. Do we have an ordinance, or is it in our ordinance, about beekeeping in city limits?
So within the animal control ordinance, there is no ordinance here about beekeeping. The previous agency I worked before here, we did have a beekeeping ordinance. It was hardly ever used, but there was certain things that we looked for. It had to be so many feet away from a house, so many feet away from a sidewalk. You had to provide enough water, and most of the times a lot of people were like, never mind, because our houses were way too close to each other to even do it, because people would have pools in their backyard and live in a super nice neighborhood, and then all the bees would just be swarming their pool all day long because of the because bees love the water source. So that's not something that we're adding right now into this ordinance, but like I said, it was very rarely
Would we
used.
be allowed to have them or not allowed to have them?
As far as I
Or it's
know.
just up in the air,
Yeah,
so if you
yeah.
do it, then there's
We don't have any
no
regulations on it,
Okay.
so if I would suggest if somebody wants to do beekeeping that they just do their research on it so they don't become a nuisance to their neighbor.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just thinking, we have some rural properties now in the city limits, and so this might be something they might be something that they're going to research. And
Yeah, when you live in a rural area and you want to do beekeeping, I think that's wonderful. I think that's great. You're not really
Great for the
disrupting any
environment.
neighbors or
Yeah.
anything like that because you have so much land. But
Yeah.
when you live in the city and it gets smaller and close corridors with folks, yeah,
I think it might be worth it to maybe explore
look into the beekeeping.
into beekeeping, just because of the fact that we do have rural residents in our area, and we might want to put some limitations on space, if nothing else. Because I can see subdivisions. Someone might say, "Well, man, I want to help the environment. I want to cultivate bees," and then people will be like really concerned, like chickens, same thing. So.
And I'm obviously not worried about it now, but I was asked by somebody if we have
Yeah.
a meat ordinance, and I couldn't find it, and then,
Yeah.
reading this, I was like, I don't know that we do. So.
I think I would lean on, since, code enforcement is complaint driven, that we wait for said complaint
Yes.
before we investigate.
Okay. I was looking at being proactive.
I understand that.
I can tell you that in the past, we have had some complaints that have come up of actual wild bee swarms that were around town. And we had to advise those property owners that they needed to seek pest control removal and stuff like that on those issues. So we have had those come up from time to time.
I mean, I think to be proactive, I think it might be worthwhile just starting that process.
That'd be great. No, seriously, all kidding aside, I think it would
I side
behoove
with
us,
Mark on
behoove
this
us
until it becomes
to.
an issue.
I actually agree with Mark also.
Oh, okay. All right.
I know, crazy.
Wow, that is crazy.
I have a question about definitions.
Sure.
So why is at large restricted to cats and dogs and not a rabbit, a chicken, some vertebrate that's running around?
Yeah. Most typically, people don't let their rabbits and such run at large. And most of the time, when somebody does, lose a rabbit, it's on accident or, things of that nature. Where, yes, most of the time, people, whenever they have their dogs get out or cats on accident, I understand that absolutely, for sure. But also, an accident doesn't happen, multiple times, four times during the week and such like that. And I'll be real honest with you, the times I have picked up a rabbit or a ferret or something, and I put it out on Facebook like, hey, we picked up this rabbit or this ferret today, nobody reclaims it. And I honestly think people will dump, I picked up an iguana one time, and nobody reclaimed it.
We
And
saw that.
I think people are just trying to get rid of these animals at that point where they're just like, I don't want this rabbit or this ferret or this iguana anymore. I'm just going to let it out and let nature take its course, which, if I could find those owners, that'd be great, citing those folks, possibly with cruelty, if that's what their intention was, because, those things can't survive here in
I was kind of wondering if it was tied to the, we get licenses for
Dogs and
dogs, and we have a tag, whereas we don't tag a chicken.
Yeah, yeah.
We don't have an ankle collar.
Yeah, yeah, I think that'd be helpful because, you know, half the time when chickens get out, you don't know where they belong, and you're like, well, great, what do I do, you know? As opposed to like, you know, cow tag, when a cow gets out. I had one just recently over at 172nd in Jessica over there. A cow got out. I had to ask all the farmers, you know, and their dog, hey, do you know who owns this cow? And I had to call 80 million farmers, but thankfully I found the owner. But, so yes, it would be nice if we could have people tag their cows and such, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then for bite,
Mhm.
it says, taking the words here, suspected bruise. You can have a suspected bruise, and it's defined as a bite.
Yeah, so so if you continue reading the bite section further, it says bite means any actual or suspected abrasion, scratch, puncture, tear, or piercing of the skin. So when we impound an animal on a bite, it has to be where it says here in which is actually or suspected of being contaminated and inoculated with the saliva from an animal directly. So if somebody were to come up to me and say, hey, look, I have this bruise, and you know, no skin was broken at that point, then I can justify, well, you know, the saliva, no way could have gotten, you know, into your skin, and could you be infected with that rabies disease, because there is no piercing of that skin where that saliva could get inside, you know, your bloodstream like that. That was just one of the definition readings that whenever I was doing my research that almost all animal control ordinances is using at this time. But yeah, the only time we impound an animal on a bite is if it breaks the skin, and where we can articulate, yeah, you know, it happened from the mouth, where then at which point I can see your skin broken, you are clearly bleeding, we're gonna impound your animal just to make for certain that, you know, your animal doesn't have rabies and we don't have a person possibly dying of rabies.
And your scenario happens.
Yeah.
All right, great, thank you.
Yeah.
Any further questions? Thank you. Do I have a motion for new business item number 3?
So moved.
Second.
Motion shoot, second Deaton, we adopt ordinance number 2754, an ordinance amending chapter 6.05 animal regulations of the municipal code of the city of Gardner, Kansas.
Councilmember Baldwin,
Yes.
Councilmember Ween,
Yes.
Councilmember Deaton,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Shute,
Yes.
Ordinance number 2754 passes. New business item number 4, consider adopting an ordinance amending the city of Gardner's base salary structure fiscal year 2023.
Good evening again. The purpose of this requested ordinance is threefold. First, as you may recall, in March of 2022, the sworn officer salaries for the Gardner Police Department were removed from the city's salary schedule and placed in their own sworn officer salary schedule. However, both the base salary schedule and the sworn officer salary schedule were still adopted with a single ordinance. This change proposes adopting these two salary schedules with different ordinances moving forward in order to provide better clarity when a change is made that impacts one salary schedule and not the other. This ordinance will adopt the 2023 base salary schedule, while the salary schedule for sworn officers will be considered during the next agenda item. Second, the updated salary schedule changes the name of the senior staff engineer position for utilities to electric generation substation manager to better reflect the current responsibilities of the position. This is not an additional position. Moving forward, there will not be a senior staff engineer position for utilities. The position will remain in the current pay range 8. Finally, this ordinance adjusts the pay ranges to provide a 3% adjustment on top of the current base pay ranges for staff who are not employed as sworn police officers. The reason for this is in 2022, staff who had reached the top of their respective pay ranges were given a lump sum to capture the total COLA of 3% for their base annual earnings through the end of 2022. This adjustment will allow the initial COLA to be calculated as part of their base salary for 2023 and beyond for just those employees who have reached the top of their respective pay ranges, while also allowing those staff to capture the 2023 COLA as approved by the council and part of the recent budget process.
Thank you, Amy. public comments? Council?
This will be effective January 1st of 2023.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Do we have a motion for new business item number 4?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Deaton, second Shoot. We adopt ordinance number 2755, an ordinance adopting a revised City of Gardner base salary structure fiscal year 2023.
Councilmember Ween,
Yes.
Councilmember Deaton,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Shute,
Yes.
Councilmember Baldwin,
Yes.
Ordinance number 2755 passes. New business item number 5, consider adopting an ordinance establishing a new sworn officer salary structure for fiscal years 2022, 2023. Finance Director Wolf and Chief Belcher.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. The ability to attract and retain sworn officers is a national issue. Johnson County Sheriff's Office recently implemented an aggressive compensation structure that brought new officers' starting wages up to $28.50. The Gardner Police Department's starting wage for officers is scheduled to go up to $22.77 in 2023. Gardner's starting wage is the second lowest in the county. Several neighboring jurisdictions are already planning wage adjustments to remain competitive with Johnson County's Sheriff's Office. Staff recommends implementing a step system similar to Johnson County Sheriff's Office. They'll bring the starting wage up to $28.50. The compensation strategy will assist the recruitment by offering competitive wages, making it easier to recruit lateral transfers. This compensation structure also assists with retention by placing current employees in a competitive salary structure that rewards years of service. The new sworn officer salary structure will replace the current career ladder system and replace it with a step schedule that includes annual steps of 4%. Current sworn officers will receive an increase during the implementation process because they'll be placed into a step schedule based on years of service. Sworn officers may be eligible for a COLA adjustment starting in 2024. Finally, to aid in recruitment, a referral bonus of $2,000 for new hires is recommended. If approved, the new pay structure will be implemented in 2022. The cost in fiscal year 2022 will be minor since the year is almost over, and there are savings in the operating budget due to vacancies. The estimated cost for implementing the salary structure in 2023, or the cost in 2023 will be $425,000. Please note this is a very conservative estimate. It basically assumes full staffing all year, when in reality it'll take months to fill these positions. Last month at the fiscal capacity work session, we evaluated the city's tax levy funds to ability to support operational programs and capital improvements. There's sufficient capacity in the general fund to absorb these costs. In order to maintain essential police operations, we need to maintain adequate staffing of sworn officers. We believe the proposed changes to compensation structure will address this need. The use of general fund capacity to implement this change aligns with the governing body's multi-year budget strategy to bring the general fund balance closer to the target balance of 30%. I believe Chief Belcher has a few additional words with you, or to you as well.
Thank you, Matt. So nothing has really changed since we spoke at the work session a couple weeks ago. Matter of fact, we have another officer that is leaving us, so we've actually taken a little step backwards. You want to do public comments, Mayor, and then I'll finish?
Sure, yeah.
I think that
Can
probably.
open it up to public comments?
I'm the only one here. They need more money. I mean, you're gonna keep having officers leave.
Yeah.
I've lived here in Gardner for 17 years. And
Come up to Mike.
the crime seems to get, the traffic's getting worse. I mean, with all the intermodals being built, you never know who moves in this town. We need more officers on the street. I've got a young son, a son that graduated college here, or not, or high school here. I mean,
Yeah, agreed.
we've got to have more, so I used to be, I'm a former bail bondsman. And I've seen, I know a little bit more about the crime rate and some of the stuff that goes on underneath, that you guys don't see. That people still work for me and do other stuff. And the crime's here, the drugs are here, he needs more
money. You have a lot of police officers that work out of town that live here, but since you don't pay, they don't work here.
All right. Chief Belcher.
A couple things to hit on. Matt talked about the referral bonus. I want to make sure that everyone, you all understand that is if we have an employee that brings in somebody, then they're going to get that referral bonus. Yeah. That goes to any city employee, not just at the police department. So if any of the director's people bring in somebody to the police department, we hire them, they're eligible for the referral bonus.
Good.
So the more, the merrier. You know, looking at this process, I want to thank you guys, the governing body, because you've been tremendously supportive of this. I want to thank the city administrator because he was very supportive of this in pushing, and Finance Director Wolf was very great to work with as the Deputy City Administrator. To me, when I saw this, I really was kind of speechless because it was beyond what I thought we would be able to do. So it is absolutely incredible. And I'm very, very thankful for it.
All right, thank
You
you.
haven't heard us vote yet.
What's that?
True.
It'll be at least 4-1. No, we appreciate you guys too. We know that in a city such as this that's growing, we need to have sworn officers that are keeping the peace and keeping our city safe. As our member of the public stated, who couldn't be heard because he wasn't at the microphone, we've got a lot of stuff coming into the community. We don't know. We just don't know what's going on, and so we need to have folks that are vigilant, who have our back, and that's why we're going to approve this, even if only 4-1. But thank you again for all the work that you guys are doing, and I understand we're up against it, so we're going to get this. We're going to get you some help.
We appreciate your support.
Yep.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Where does it set us then?
What's that?
Where does it set us with this pay raise? Where does it set us with the surrounding areas?
Right now we're right there at the top.
Yeah.
We're right there at the top, competing with the sheriff's office. Like Finance Director Wolf said, that there are some other agencies that have something in the works. We don't know what that is, but I would be surprised if it's going to be this, in all honesty.
So let me elaborate on that. So we are at the top end 4% below the county. We eliminated a step for corporals, for captains, because there wasn't enough separation. The corporals and sergeants were too close. We eliminated a step. So there's like a 5% increment between the different ranks. So we are still below the county, but this will make us a lot more competitive.
At the bottom end, we're going to be right there.
Yes.
So.
So, talking about the different steps, I don't see police officer 2 here. Is that wrapped into the police officer and then going up through the steps? So we do not have police officer 2 anymore?
No.
Or, okay.
I go back to some of the one-time costs that might attract, and if losing them is what we don't want, like they go through the whole process and then towards the end they get a better deal. Would it be a good idea to offer like $1,000 after a year as part of the program?
Like a retention bonus?
Retention, yes, or $2,000 after 2 years, or something that will incent them to.
Are you talking about for existing employees?
Well, it could be for the new hires, I guess.
But I think we're losing existing people.
So that was kind of what we did with police officer 1, 2, 3, 4. That longevity bonus was the jump from one to another. So we accounted for that in this.
Okay.
I don't think it's necessary.
Okay, fair enough.
I have a question, and I don't know if I'm probably going to word it horribly, but how are we seeing this problem, and how are we going to deal with a problem of people leaving us for more money, and then, okay, well now Prairie Village jumps up high, and then everybody leaves there, and then we jump ahead of them, and now they come back, and
The city administrator could probably speak to this, but I think that there's some discussions going on at the city administrator's level, talking about that very thing.
Yeah, we talked about that at the meeting a couple weeks ago about, everybody outbidding each other. And as a region, we should have a similar salary structure because, we're not competing against the St. Louis, we're not competing with Wichita. And if we keep just one-upping each other, it's just gonna cost us more money. And this problem is a regional problem because, people don't wanna enter the profession now. So, we're just cutting the legs out of each other. We just keep escalating this. So, there's no document or no, handshake agreement that everybody's gonna stick to that, but everybody recognizes that that's an issue and they're going to take that into consideration before we, start trying to blow each other out of the water with a new proposal.
Yeah, but I've also got a concern that, the larger entities that can afford and absorb the cost, I'm talking about the Olathes, the Overland Parks, the county sheriffs of the world, they may continue to try to do something like this unless there's some sort of an interlocal that we could, not a formal necessarily agreement, but a compact or something like that we can limit these, because that was the whole reason why we're having this discussion is because the county decided they were gonna, jack up their salaries significantly over and above everybody else.
But they're facing a deficit of 50 deputies.
Yes.
So, they feel like they're in a position that they have to do something drastic to address that, so.
Yep. And they have the resources to absorb the cost. So smaller communities will be in a more vulnerable position.
Well, and I don't want my comment to sound like, oh gosh, I hope we don't have to do another race, because I'm not, I just want to make sure that if somebody wants to come back, great, bring them back, we need as many people, but I want to make sure that we are looking, and I assume it's a case-by-case basis at maybe bonus hoppers, like, hey, sign here, and then, oh, sign here, and sign here, and, those people, we're going to put training into them, and we know they're going to leave at the next.
That's not sustainable.
And everybody is trying to get a certified officer, so that's one of the reasons why you have to be in the ballpark, because you can't get certified officers if your 5-year officer is making $10,000 less than their 5-year officer. They're not going to come here for that. And if we do something to attract an individual, then we have inequity in our own system, and it just becomes more problematic. So I think this puts us in a good position. We're going to see at a national level where the profession goes salary-wise. They're either going to have to change to where we don't need as many officers, or the salary's going to have to go up to attract people to enter this profession.
I totally agree. This puts us in great shape, in my opinion.
So, I have a love-hate relationship with this ordinance. I hate the fact that we're literally talking about $1.5 million right here in this one ordinance.
Exactly.
But, the primary duty of a government is to protect its citizens in various facets. So, I don't think we have much choice here. I hope it does the trick, and we don't lose more officers, because we don't have very many to give away at this point. So, I'm 100% supportive of it. I just hope it's enough.
All right, do I have a motion for business item number 5?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Deaton, second Baldwin, when we adopt ordinance number 2756, ordinance adopting a revised City of Gardner sworn officer salary structure, fiscal years 2022, 2023.
Councilmember Deaton,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Shute,
Yes.
Councilmember Baldwin,
Yes.
Councilmember Ween,
Yes.
Ordinance number 2756 passed. Thank you, everyone, for that. All right, let's move on to council updates. Chief Belcher.
So I spoke to the city administrator. We are dealing with a similar problem that Public Works Director Headley dealt with being able to get vehicles. The police cars are very, very scarce. So right now we have a lead on maybe picking up 3 or 4. So we are wanting to know if the council would allow us to make an obligation to put a placeholder on those cars if we can in the next month, and then bring it back to you in 2023, in early 2023, to purchase the cars. Because if we don't get these cars, we're probably not going to see any until 2024, mid 2024. So very similar to what Public Works Director Headley was talking about a couple weeks ago. It's just they're hard to find, and there's very few out there. So we have the money in the budget for 23. We just might need to reserve them now to make sure that we get them in 2023.
I think that's a great idea, and probably we'll get them for less at this point, because as demand increases and they become even more scarce, we'll probably end up getting.
I can tell you from the ones that we bought last year to this year, they went up 10 grand a piece.
We have consensus.
I'm okay with it.
I don't think we don't think any of us had a problem with that. Are they going to lock in the price then for that
Yes.
as well? Okay, great. That's not even that's a no-brainer.
We're chasing down a couple of leads right now, but we wanted to
Yeah.
talk to the governing body about
No,
this.
that's a no-brainer.
Okay. All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
We get a cheap one with a couple bullet holes, patch it up.
Taking down the auto clip class.
That sounds like Chief Francis to me. Man.
That was my inspiration.
Fire truck / police car.
Nothing for me tonight.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
City Attorney, you got to be quiet today.
Yeah, I did want to point out, because your animal control officer is correct that beekeeping isn't dealt with in the animal control ordinance. However, and Dave may be ready to jump on this too, it is dealt with in your zoning code as to where it's appropriate and where it's not.
Yep.
And so it's, there is homestead farming under the zoning code, and the way I read it, Dave, you can correct me if I'm reading this wrong, is you have to have at least 3 acres to do honeybees.
Yeah, I want to be very careful about that.
You be that way.
Just tell them it's none of their business.
So you're a bust.
Let's
Don't be a buzzkill.
you guys quit swarming. All right. Oh, okay. Collins.
Nothing tonight.
Jason.
Couple quick things. We kicked off our recreational basketball season tonight with our coaches meeting over at the senior building.
Minus 2 coaches.
Sorry, we appreciate your voluntary.
Thank you.
It's okay. We ended up getting about 340 participants for this season. In addition to that, we have 110 little ballers in this session, so we're sitting about 450 youth basketball participants this year. So practices will start next week, and then games will start after the first of the year. I did want to take this opportunity to thank the school district. I've been working closely with John Duncanson over the last 3 months. We've been meeting weekly, staying in communication. They've been very helpful in finding gym space, and so it's something that we're going to continue to do, and it's worked out really well. So.
Great.
And then also next Monday is our 32nd annual Christmas in the Park over at Cornerstone Park. Festivities will kick off around 7 o'clock. Park maintenance crew has been busting it for the last 3 weeks, getting the light displays and everything. So we'll have the mayor's message, all the elementary school choirs out there singing, and I heard there's some special guests coming. So if any of the governing body plans on attending, please let me know so I can have your reserved parking spot up front. Forecast shows low of 40, so high of 48, so knock on wood, it looks pretty decent.
We could have had drones this year.
I knew you were going to say that again. It's an annual comment.
Just don't learn, do you?
That would have been awesome. It would have been. Anyway.
All right. Thank you. Dave.
Next Monday is the Planning Commission meeting at 7 p.m., so the crowd at the Christmas of the Park will probably be minimal for at least a half hour, 45 minutes, so just anticipate that.
Yeah. Should we reschedule or? Okay.
Depends on these.
Callum.
It's come up a couple of times that folks have seen some pole-mounted cameras out along 167th Street. Those are for the preliminary engineering study that's being done on the 167th Street corridor. They're doing traffic counts. They use the cameras to get turning movements and things like that. I'll work with Danica to maybe put something out just so you don't get so many questions.
Yes, thank you.
I did have a question about the entrances that are on the north side of the new pavement. So we got the new service, which is great. It's wonderful. However, if you're trying to turn going north, so to Sonic or to Freddy's or to any of those streets there, it looks like the whatever they put in there, the aggregate is degrading very, very quickly. There are areas where people are bottoming out. There's holes in that. It's also causing problems because people are stopping to turn because they don't know if their car is going to be able to make it through there, and it's causing potential traffic hazards. So I just wanted to see if is there any possibility we could talk to Amino about reinforcing that aggregate. I mean, Jim, your truck is fine on that, but you know, for some of us that have the sedans that might bottom out, by Freddy's in particular, not that happened to me, it would be something we might want to address.
Yeah, we can bring it up with KDOT and the contractor. They're using a different method on this. They used a machine called a rubbleizer.
Yeah.
And it basically just turned the concrete into an aggregate base, and so we're kind of seeing how that holds up under car traffic, and apparently not very well. So.
No.
I'd had.
Anonymous citizen, right?
I'm asking for a friend.
I'd had some complaints too, not just
Yeah.
a friend that might be out there.
Yeah, we'll definitely address it.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any status on the project that's worth sharing at this point?
They're on schedule with what they presented for the project moving forward.
It's been very cold, so nothing's happening. Yeah.
No, they've been doing.
They've been doing a lot of the grading. They're grading that out, but.
And they put in some storm sewer and things like that.
Right.
So yeah, they're on schedule with what they presented moving forward from the design delays.
Besides the Freddy's mishap that may or may not have happened with Steve, I did hear lots of compliments on the part that is.
Yeah. Oh, it's great.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
City Administrator.
So Amy and staff have been working on the rate study, and they're preparing to take that to the UAC for recommendations. So we should have it back to council the second meeting in January, which I believe is the 24th. No, 23rd. Whatever. So Matt and I were talking about year-end budget, and one of the things that came up was that we've recently, or over the past few months, have gotten what should be considered one-time revenues. A lot of them are from origination fees, from IRBs and things like that, and how to best present that and account for that to council and the public. So we are considering bringing a recommendation to council for a fund to segregate those funds, whether it's an economic development fund or something, so that we can represent to the council and to the public where we actually stand with our fund reserves. So if we put them in, if we leave them in general fund, I mean, our fund balance is going to be artificially inflated. So, I mean, it's still going to have the same accounting principle, but it's a way to account for those one-time funds, and it will give us an opportunity and a funding source when opportunities arise that we can react to. So just a heads up that that's coming.
I like it. Sounds good, thank you. All right. Councilman Wayne.
I guess I'd like to congratulate our Gardner Edgerton High School on winning sub-state and then heading off to state this upcoming weekend. So I think that's a fantastic thing, and with the second time they've ever gone.
That's right, second time in 57 years.
Yep. It's fantastic.
Absolutely.
We'll have a proclamation for that when they win, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I stopped short, Steve.
Didn't bottom out.
It didn't bottom out.
Yeah, they haven't hit bottom.
I echo that. Congratulations. I was at the game on Friday night for as long as I could before I froze, and I've already ordered my cowbells and pom-poms and headed down to Emporia to cheer them on this weekend, so I can't wait. I'm excited for those boys.
Mhm.
Councilman Roberts?
I have nothing, but thank you for asking.
Council Vice President?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I think there were a couple of folks that came in and spoke on the work that's been done to get rid of the truck traffic or significantly discourage the truck traffic on 199th Street. I get the sense from some of those folks that there might be some other individuals who might want to explore annexation. So I'm hoping that those discussions are continuing. And I just wanted to also commend both the city administrator and the police chief for, being vigilant and helping to support the commitment that we made to those folks on 199th Street regarding that. And also the support of the mayor, obviously, on, coming up with a long-term solution that will keep truck traffic off for a more permanent basis. So thank you.
Council President?
Nothing, sir.
And I just echo congratulations to the Gardner High School.
Go
And
Blazers.
I'm gonna, go Blazers. I'm going to try and get out there at Emporia as well, so looking forward to it. All right, that being said, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Motion Deaton, second Baldwin. We adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.